And how many tension issues do we have, Sarah?
One.
One! And it's a big one. Yeah, we have one, all right? And so we have to really pay attention to it. So the only real point of tension is that. Now, where do we have near harmony or near agreement? Order. That's scored a 1. That means there is harmony in our perspective about that it is important and there's a lot of barriers, right? But just because it scored a 1 doesn't mean it isn't worth talking about. Notice that it scores a 1, but how many data points?
6.
Do you understand? There's only, it scored that everybody's cool. We're in harmony. No, it doesn't. It says, we just agree this really sucks. You understand? All right? Now let's look at the next closest one. We got one that's 1.03 down at the bottom. Okay, anxiety, avoidance, and calmness. That's really close too, isn't it? Okay? Again, harmony, but we have an agreement that we have major league problems going on. We have 5 data points associated with that. But now let's go up a little bit. Let's go to number 12 on food. All right, so we've got 12, we've got a 1.2, which is pretty close to 1 in the scheme of things, and there's only 1 data point. What do you think? Probably not. Probably not. Probably not something to worry about. So you can see how the other end of this is. I don't see anything in there. 36 is, we're still in the green. We haven't even hit yellow yet. We're in the green. It's cool. We're probably going to be all right. I'll talk to you about that some more later, though. All right, so what areas have the highest data points? We've already talked about that. Helping others, right? Order, independence, curiosity, and attention. Is that right? No, curiosity. Okay. And then down at the bottom, anxiety, avoidance, and calmness. All right. So there we got that. Now let's talk about, based on what we just decided, what we just talked about, what should we start doing? Okay? So this is what we're going to talk about. What I want you to do is I want you to pick, out of all of the scores that are on that page, this is where we're going to start. I want you to tell me which of the 10 do you think we need to pay attention to? Which of the 10 are the ones that are going to say, yeah, we got to do something about this one? And remember, if you start with the data points on the far right-hand side, that helps to eliminate a whole bunch of the other numbers, because once it can help at least skew your analysis. If you get a lot of data points, that probably covers it. And remember that what we're trying to do is promote good mental and behavioral health. We're going to improve the quality of the life. We want to enhance the functional behavior. Okay, so let me get a sense of, if you had to pick one place to begin, if you could only pick one thing out of those 10 that you just selected, what would be the one thing that you feel like, oh my gosh, we absolutely have to do something about this? Go ahead, Jason. Order. Because we got order, we got a 10 and a 9, we got a 90, and we got a 90, and we got 6. And guess what? Jason wins! Yes, absolutely. When you have 6 data points, it automatically says, boom, there ain't no negotiating, this is it. Gotta do this one. So, absolutely correct. If I could only do one thing, that would be where I'd start. Because this is probably contaminating everything else. Does that make sense? Okay? And believe me, it was. In real life, that was the thing that once we got that mellowed out, a whole lot of other stuff got a whole lot better. Okay? So, let's do another one that you think would be good. The next most important, if you would.
Independence and self-determination.
Independence and self-determination, you think? Well, you know what? It's real close, but I picked help others. And the only reason I did was because even though we got two 5s in the data points, and this one is 100, and that one is a 60, what I wound up with was a 9. I wound up with some pretty dramatic differences here, and I wound up with 0.2. But we're very...
wasn't important to him as much?
Well, but the system is making a big deal out of it. Does that make sense? So this is not saying that it's all about fixing him. It may be about us fixing us and backing off a little bit. But the argument that you just made for doing it, I could make the same argument as well. And I completely can justify what you said in one. I'm just slightly different rationale. All right. So curiosity comes after that, okay? Is there any question about why? Does anybody did everybody else have curiosity identified? So everybody had curiosity identified, okay? So let me do the next one. Who's Sarah? What do you think is next? Give me a guess.
Maybe vengeance.
Maybe vengeance. Okay? Anybody else got a different thought? Anxiety. Oh, that would have been what I did. Okay? Because I'm still dealing with 5 data points. Now, all I'm trying to say to you at this point is that those are the things we know cut across multiple rating areas that serve as an alert. Okay? So it eliminates the need to look at the individual scores when we have that many data points. Okay? So that makes it easier. All right. And then we're going to go to the next column over. So we've got our clusters, our 5 and 6s. Those are real clear. Now we go one column over. Just keep going to the right. And here's where vengeance clearly stands out. It's a huge tension. And it's the only one, but it's a big deal, even though the system doesn't think it matters at all, or they want it to go away. Okay? Does that make sense? We good? All right. The next after that was morality, and that's because of how low it scored on the harmony, tension, and resistance ratio. So high resistance. They're trying to get him to have this big moral life and make decisions about right and wrong, good and bad, just, unjust. And the only thing he cares about is what's happening right here, right now for me. Very egocentric thinking, okay? Truly functioning intellectually, emotionally, age-wise, as a child at about 2. My world, my way. Okay? And I'm going to throw a temper tantrum when it's not happening. Okay? Now, that's just the way that works. Okay? So, what do you think comes next? Anybody got a guess? You have attention after that. Well, I went up to avoidance of rejection, avoidance, and acceptance because I went over one more column. I picked the 2 lowest ones under harmony, tension, and under the harmony, tension, and resistance ratio. I just picked the 2 because I had to figure out how to limit it to 10. Truth? Because you can't do everything. Okay? But guess what? It's coming. So now we've got frustration, avoidance. So you've got the 70s. We've already covered the 90s and the 100. We've covered those already. We covered the 80 already. See how those kind of covered all those? So now, there's attention. Okay? And all it is that I'm just constantly moving to the right. Okay? But I have to make sure that all of the things that are his high scoring things are in here. So are all those 10s and 9s covered? Are all those 9s covered? We're not going to talk about that 9. But we got the, is that 90 covered? Yeah, you see, that's why I did it this way, so that it would show that we've got it covered, all right? So, now why did I just put food up there? Why did I make number 11 food? Come on, give me a guess.
It's something that you deal with every day.
Something you deal with every day. Something that he's saying is pretty important to him.
And everybody kind of says it's pretty important.
And-
Even us.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have some agreement that it's relatively important at some level. I mean, it's still mid-range, right? But the reality is that if food's important to him, there's a possibility we can use food as a way to motivate other behaviors. Now, I'm not talking about giving him M&Ms and marshmallows. I'm talking about maybe he'd like to learn how to cook. Okay? Maybe he'd like to help in the kitchen. If we've got all these things like helping others, and we've got things like, we're trying to help him establish order, and those kinds of things, maybe there's some tasks that we can help him do. Maybe it's putting together the snack that everybody's going to get in the afternoon. But maybe it'll help him establish some routine and some patterning. So that's an example of trying to pull something that he thought was relatively important and throw it in there as one way that we might be able to help support him. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Any questions or comments about that? Does that make sense to people about how you start at the right-hand side and you work your way over? You make sure that you pick up all the key scores that way. All right. Then we're going to go on. There's an example. Okay? Took something that didn't seem like it fit. We needed to do something, and we needed to do a whole lot of it. Well, he took two things that didn't seem like they went together and put them together. Put the yard rake and the hot dogs together, and we have solved the problem of needing to cook a lot of hot dogs in a short period of time. It's the same kind of thinking that you have to do. Is if you just do this assessment, and you get the scores, but you don't start thinking creatively about how are we going to reduce the tension, how are we going to reduce the resistance, how are we going to increase the social skills, how are we going to get the engagement, how are we going to reshape relationships, like having a different way that she can communicate with her mom, like going and doing things in the community, like, unless you start thinking about how we're going to break these antecedents that have been dysfunctional, well, you're going to get the same thing you've always got. Okay? You can cook hot dogs one at a time on a stick, but it's going to take a lot longer for 14 people to get fed that way. And a whole lot more people got to stand around the fire, and more people have to risk getting burned, and so you start seeing all the other things that start causing problems. So how do we consolidate some of these issues that Michael's got? So here's what we want to try and do, is we want to say that whenever possible, we're going to combine interventions to address multiple need areas. Whenever it's possible, you combine the intervention. Try not to do interventions in isolation. Try and see if there isn't a way to always pick up 2 or 3 things. The reason being is that when you have those, when they pick up multiple things, you may have mostly intended it to help with order, but it actually helps more with attention. Okay? So then, if you've got something else that actually was meant to deal with vengeance, but it turns out that it's helping a whole lot with order, you didn't lose either one. Does that make sense? So, and the reality is that how are you going to do 10, 12, 20 programs? And have it make sense for somebody and not have them rebel now against you trying to help them. Okay? So, first thought always has to be, where can we back off the pressure? Where can we back off some pressure to bring the resistance down? Because when you bring off that pressure and you decrease the resistance, they notice the change. They notice the emotional, psychological difference that happened. And what happens usually is they want to find out what's wrong. That's and they come to you. They close up the gap. Okay? Have you ever had a situation where you had a pain and it was like really, really hurting, and you went to the dentist or you went to the doctor and you're sitting there in the waiting room, and while you're waiting, the pain goes away? You ever had that? Okay? The reality is that when that happens, your brain is going, where the hell's the pain? Bring back the pain. It's supposed to hurt now. Here I am at the dentist, and it stopped hurting. But the same thing is that if you're used to a certain level of interaction, or a certain style of interaction, and a certain set of antecedents, and those antecedents change, and then the energy of the relationship changes, we're like, okay, what the hell happened? We want to go investigate, right? And that's what happens, is that the person tends to, if you take the pain and the pressure out of the relationship, they come that much closer to you. So much easier to get people to be engaged. And then, here's the next trick. The closer they get to you, if we've been struggling over something on tension the whole time, I say, you know what? I know you've been wanting to go out and look at the cars, the muscle cars and that kind of stuff. I know that's something you really want to do. We're short on staff, but I have a friend who's really into that. Would you like to go out with him? So now I let go of the tension. And I give you something that you've been trying to get. Now this starts freaking people out. I'm serious. They start going, what the heck is going on? Why are things so weird? And it gives you a chance to hit the reset button. It gives you a chance to just say, okay, we can do this differently. And that, a lot of times, is what you need. So, take some of the pressure off, drop a rule or two, if you can, give somebody something they've been trying to obtain, or give them a way to earn it that is relatively short, relatively fast. You want to go and get, the ice cream down at the end of the street, tell you what, I'll go with you to go get the ice cream at the corner store, but I really got to clean up the backyard. You come help me clean up the backyard, we'll go get the ice cream. You going to come help me clean up the backyard? Yeah. Are we likely to engage in a different kind of relationship from that point on? Absolutely. Okay? So, important part is that whenever possible, consolidate your interventions, have it cover 2, 3, 4 areas, get creative. Think yard rake and hot dogs. Okay? This is an important time for us to not get stuck in the box. The box is the problem. Okay? Everybody talks about think outside the box. Setting the box on fire. So you can't get back in it, because the box is the problem. Because otherwise we would need to keep getting out of it. Okay? So this is a time for all good human services people to acknowledge and value the fact that we are a different breed. Okay? And it's a good thing. And we tend to be far more creative than the general public. Now, I don't mean artistic. I don't mean it in that we all have more music skills or more painting skills, but we are more creative. We tend to be creative thinkers, we tend to be creative doers, we tend to be creative livers. We live more creatively. We don't like getting stuck in routines typically. And we'll do stuff to shake it up just because it's getting boring. Right? Okay? So, this is a time to value that and use it. Alright, so now what I want you to do is to pick any 3 areas that you've got in front of you and quickly tell me how you could decrease tension or resistance, use his interests or his strengths in an area to build on and address other need areas, okay? And increase skills to enable better coping and management, and redirect some staff efforts to the things that might help Michael. Now, since we're at almost 2:30, what I'm going to ask you to do, instead of doing 3, just pick one. Pick one and do all 4 of those things, or as close to all 4 as you can. And we'll do it in about 4 or 5 minutes. All right, who's willing to be brave and take a stab at sharing with us what they came up with on how they could decrease tension and resistance in one of those, or use his interest areas to build. Who's going to go first? Come on, Jason. What area did you pick first?
Well, I picked order.
Okay.
But I wanted to tie in helping others. But
Okay.
I was trying to put him in an environment where he could have a room, that was his room, that he could arrange, manipulate however he wanted to. And then he could have an outcome where once a week or something he goes and he finds something that he can decorate or put in that room to satisfy curiosity, order, attention, and independence.
Okay, so he gets to control his environment, so that means some independence.
Part of the environment.
Part of his room area,
Right.
okay? And because of it's out and about and doing all those kinds of things, it's some social things. And then he's establishing his order for his area rather than establishing the chaos for everybody else's. So you definitely got the idea of taking multiple things and putting them together, and by giving him his space, clearly are going to wind up decreasing some of that tension and some of the resistance at the same time. You've managed to do two things at the same time. Excellent example. Excellent example. Somebody else? Miles, go ahead.
I use food because it's not high importance, but it's something
Yeah.
that's every day. And I think we can hit some other areas. He's going to learn more independence, especially in orders. We not only help him do recipes, but he can plan his own meals. That'll give him more independence, and he can get attention, maybe by making stuff and selling it or babysitting or something, which will give him some social contact. And then also cooking and being something like that is a very calming effect, so it might help him in some important situations.
Absolutely. And so, again, the issue of the overlap, and you can actually then start using a skill set that isn't officially relaxation, but can be relaxing nonetheless. Okay? Absolutely. Very good. Anybody else? One more person. I haven't picked on you much today. I'm going to pick on you, and then I'll pick on you. So it's two. Just give me one thing that you did that you feel good about.
I'd say maybe, physical activity.
Okay?
You could, take just where you develop, or maybe once a week you're spending time, a set time every week where he's going out, whether it be to the store or to somewhere where, like a social event or something. So maybe facilitate conversations with women or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a sexual,
Yeah.
social setting, and maybe getting attention, curiosity, social contact, physical activity, just going out and walking around
Okay.
in public places and things like that.
Now, the idea of the collaboration and pulling several things together and trying to accomplish a couple different goals at the same time, great. Now, I'm also going to tell you that, especially with a guy, if it involves meeting, seeing a woman, about 85% of the men are going to be willing to do it. Okay, so excellent understanding of the way that most men. Okay, so that's a chunk of reality. The only thing I would say is that I think you did a great job of pulling all those things together, but I don't see a need to include the words physical activity, to be honest. And the only reason I say this is because it's not important to him and it's not all that important to us. I mean, it scored a 42, which we'd like him to do something more about. And I'm not saying we don't want him to do physical activity. That's not my point. But it's not really a concentration point for us. But it's okay that he's doing it. Okay? That's all that I'm trying to say. Is I think that instead of, sometimes it's how you frame something as to whether or not you want to do it or not. It's like, do I want to go out and meet women? If I'm a single, adult male, the answer is probably yeah. Okay, now, let me phrase it a different way. Do you want to go spend a whole lot of money on alcohol that you could buy a whole lot cheaper somewhere else, stand in a place that doesn't smell all that great, have to talk to people you don't really want to talk to, and weed your way through so that maybe you'll find somebody that's worth spending some time with? Do you understand that it's just a matter of how you frame it? So if I frame it as physical activity, I may wind up with more resistance. If I frame it as, let's go see if we can find you a girlfriend, now you may have a hard time getting him to stop that physical activity. Okay? That's the only feedback I would give you on that one. And since I haven't picked on you the whole day, say something brilliant for us.
Well, I said frustration in the mornings. Frustration in the mornings, I would want to get involved with some kind of physical activity, let them bring off, doing some physical activity, go and do some kind of social contact, and go talk about it, hang out a little bit.
Okay.
Go to the church or something, and from there, go eat, get something to eat.
All right. So what I heard you say is that trying to do avoiding frustration or avoiding anxiety and seeking calmness, that you're going to try and get him to not be focusing on that he's anxious and not about just teaching him to be calm, but the whole thing of if you're doing stuff that tends to bring down the tension or the anxiety in general. So good mental health intervention, okay, just to start with. The doing and the redirecting of the attention, smart move. And doing something social and going out and being present. It's one of the best things you can do for folks because it gives them a chance to connect with others. And you know, there's this whole thing about the whole school of thought that says don't go out into public when somebody's having a hard time. Where do they behave best most of the time? In public, in the community. So what I want them to do is to learn how to maintain when they're in the community. If I take them home, they're going to be pissed off. They're going to be jumping on, screaming at, throwing. I mean, it's all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, no, they didn't earn the right to be in the community. They don't know how to behave in the community. The community. And it's like a million reasons to not do the thing that the person needs. And if what he's saying is, I want freaking attention, you're going to give him attention. I want some contact. I want some friends. I want to be out of this damn place. And you're going, let's go do it. Now, he didn't give a flying fig about the physical activity, right? Similar to what we said earlier. He may not care anything about the physical activity. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's out with somebody who's treating him well. They're shooting hoops for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. They go get a bite to eat. They're hanging out. They're looking cool. You know, and now it's an entirely different thing than having an outing and 12 of us go jump in the van. And then we'll go bowling. Everybody likes bowling if you have a disability. You understand? So, no, it's an excellent example. Excellent example. But you get the idea of pulling multiple things together and supporting, using things to support each other. And just try and remember that you want to focus on the things that the person really loves to do, or really likes to do, or is really good at. And how can we use that to build up other things? So if he really likes getting attention at a ball game, okay, and I'm just going to use that as an example. It turns out that he doesn't like the physical activity, but likes being at the ball game, okay? Go to the ball game, see if we can get him a job as a food vendor, because he likes food. You know, we can get him to meet a whole lot of people walking around that stadium. You know, I mean, that's the kind of thinking, all right? So, we've just done the sample plans and the feedback. You have on that last slide there, that is how you get to the downloadable versions and those kinds of things. And we keep coming back because we do update them and change them and as we learn new stuff. And just remember that just because you couldn't doesn't mean you can't. So the challenge is to kill the can't and to find the answer that says this is how we can make somebody's life really different. Because only the people who care enough to try and to do the hard work are going to be the ones who can kill the can't. So take a big bite out of life, enjoy it, help them find their slice too. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for a great day. I appreciate it.